Alright guys, so in this video we're going to begin working on some 370Z headlights. We're going to be opening them up so we can go ahead and clean the interior. These headlights have been opened before. You can tell because there's a little bit of damage on some of the ends right here where they try prying it up to open it. The main reason that we're opening them up is because there's a bunch of water drops right here that you can see. This is all on the inside along with some dirt right here on the end right here. And it caused a lot of humidity with all the water that went inside here as well. So we're going to try to open them up so we can clean them. That's all we're pretty much going to be doing, but this is going to be useful for you guys if you're interested in like doing some demonize or something. It's going to help you out on how to open these up. To open these up, you're going to need a heat gun or you can use an oven. Usually the most effective way is going to be an oven because it's going to heat up everything at the same time. As where a heat gun is only going to heat up some areas at the moment. You have to go through it slowly in order to be able to open it. Let's go ahead and start opening these up so we can go ahead and start cleaning them. We have to remove this plastic piece right here. This goes at the bottom as 3 screws. Here's the back side of the headlight. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, a total of 5 screws that you need to remove. Those screws are holding it in place along with some glue, which is why you need a heat gun. And you heat up the glue and you start separating it, usually at the ends. That way you can go ahead and just pull it apart. I feel like this is going to pull off pretty easily because it's been opened before. And since water is getting into the headlight, that means that it wasn't sealed properly, so there might not be a lot of glue. Hopefully these open up pretty easily. We will be adding some new glue on here. He actually ordered some. I'm just waiting for him to drop it off. I did remove all the little bulbs that were on here. You just twist it off, twist off the other one, take off the clip here, take off a clip here, and the lights come off. You do have another one on the inside. You can remove that one as well. That would be up to you. But it's not going to be in an area where it's going to be around a lot of heat, so you don't really have to worry about it. Just mainly tuck off the ones around it. That way you don't mess up any of the wiring because the heat gun does get hot. So if you touch any of the plastics, you could end up burning it and going through the wires. I'm going to be 100% honest. This is very difficult to open up, especially if they're new and they haven't been opened up before. If you do not use the heat gun, it's going to be almost impossible and you're going to end up cracking the lens and or the housing itself from the back right here and the inside as well. So you do need to be very careful when you're doing this because you can end up breaking stuff. I do not like working on headlights because of that reason, that you could always end up breaking something. If we're not able to fix these, then he wants to go ahead and just buy some different headlights, which I think at this point is necessary just because of how damaged these are and everything that needs to be replaced. This is broken right here along with a few other things. I believe just one headlight alone is like $1,000. So they're not cheap. So if you're doing this, you want to be very careful, especially if you have brand new headlights. Yeah, let's go ahead and get started. I already removed those screws. Alright, so as you guys can see, we have a pretty good amount open already. Now what you want to do is when you are at this point, do not try to separate it completely here. So far what you've done is you've only heated up part of the headlight and everything else is still dry. So it's not warm enough to be able to separate at that point because it's still really stuck. It's going to break the headlight. So what you need to do is you need to separate it. And then once these parts are separated right here, grab like a screwdriver or something and remove the glue that's stuck right there. That way when it kind of closes like this, it doesn't stick again because then it's going to get stuck and you have to pretty much heat it up again. So now that we are at this point, you want to go ahead and stop right there. Do not go any further and then heat up the rest of it again. So heat up again right here. Do the other side as well. Okay, now let's try separating it more. See, now everything is pretty much pulling off. I can see it right here pulling off as well. Right there. And like I said, do it slowly. Don't try to just do it in one go. Keep going until you see it separating. And if it's getting stuck at one part, stop and heat that area up. So right here, it's not moving at all. I need to go ahead and heat that up. Right now it's getting pretty stuck right here, so I need to heat that up. And right here started separating where I heated it up. See, now it moves out really easily, but it's getting stuck right there. Alright, now be aware that at the bottom right here, there's these like clips right here. Make sure to push them up, just like that. And then begin separating again. So now we're at the point where it's really close to being completely separated. Now this is pretty much like the half mark right here, the half mark of the headlight. So now what we need to do is at this point we need to heat up everything on the part that has not been heated up, which is the bottom part. So that way when we pull the top end, it will literally just pull apart as a complete piece. Alright, just like that, I went ahead and removed it. It did have something in here. Let's see what it is that's making noise. He had a rock in here. Alright, now we have the complete housing removed. So now we can go ahead and start removing all these screws out the end. That way we can remove this part and start cleaning the lens itself. Alright guys, so today's a few days later. I wanted to go ahead and give you an update on exactly what's going on. So I took off the lenses already, and one of them is pretty bad, which is this one here, and it has all these spots in there. I tried cleaning it with a regular cloth like this one to prevent any damage on the interior or the inside of the lens, and honestly these things are not coming off at all. You're gonna have to scratch it, because I tried cleaning it with something else and it wasn't coming off either, and it looks like it's permanent damage because it's coming from the inside. And whatever was in there, I believe was dirt, because if you look at this lens right here, or this housing, you can see that there's a bunch of dirt marks. And if you look at the back, he's missing the plate that was back here, and he did mention that he was running it for a while without it on there, so it introduced a lot of dirt into the inside. So that dirt could have lifted up, went onto the lens. Leaving it on there with the heat and everything is just going to create damage on the inside. So if that does happen, you're pretty much going to be stuck with it like that. Because if you look at this side is completely perfect. He did have the cover on it. It just needs to be cleaned on the outside, make it look nice, sand it down, go ahead and re-clear it. But other than that, it's a pretty good looking lens. You can tell that there's a huge difference between this one and this one over here, because there's a lot of like fogginess and damage in it. So I was completely honest with him. I told him that I don't think it's really going to make a difference if we clean that. It's going to look even worse, because you're just going to introduce scratches into the inside as well, like the Morimoto headlights. I believe that's how you say it. Or you can get the lenses that they actually offer. He decided to go ahead and opt out for the lenses, which are these here. As you guys can see, they look super dope. I already finished one side over here actually. You can clearly see the difference even from far away. So see how clean that looks? Pretty much looks like a brand new headlight. So that's going to look really dope once he puts it on the car. The only recommendation that I have for you guys when installing these lenses is pretty much going to be the same thing as removing it, just putting it back on. But when you are going ahead and putting this on there, make sure you do not take out the new lens until you're ready to go ahead and put on the housing on there and put it onto the headlight. The reason is because you're going to get a lot of dust in there if you don't go ahead and close it up right away. And you could also introduce a lot of pollen, things like that, and it's just going to look really ugly, and you don't want to put any fingerprints on the inside. So make sure you leave this on there, and that way you're grabbing the outside when you're putting it on there, and you're never touching the inside of the actual housing. That's my only honest recommendation when it comes to this, because any spot that you leave on the inside, you're going to be able to see it. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start adding our glue in here, which is this one. We got it on Amazon. I'll link it down below, that way you guys can go ahead and pick it up. But it's going to be a perfect fit. You're just going to add it inside these holes right here. And in order to remove the old glue, just heat it up till it gets really hot. Get a screwdriver like this one, go ahead and put it inside, and then just go all the way down until you remove it all. It's actually pretty easy once you heat it up. If you don't heat it up, it's going to be very difficult. But either way, if you're opening these lenses, you would need some type of heat source in order to be able to remove them. So just use that same heat source in order to remove all the glue as well. But yeah, let's go ahead and start putting the new glue on there. Once we do that, we'll start putting the new lens on there. That way we can pretty much be done. Alright, so we went ahead and put the glue on there. If there are some areas that look really thin, for example, like right here, that one's kind of thin right there because you either stretched it out too far or it's just too thin in general in that area. Go ahead and add a little bit of extra glue on there. You can take some pieces, like I have some left right there. I had a piece that had came off that got stuck, so I'm just gonna rip a few small pieces and start putting it on there. But that's how it's looking for right now. And then go ahead and grab your heat gun and heat up the areas and start pushing it in. And that way it doesn't come out when you start putting the lens on there. And then also the reason that you're heating it up, because once you start heating it up, then you want to go ahead and put the lens on there. That way it starts going in and it's not just sticking on top of it and not actually going down. If you heat it up, it'll start going into place and going into the areas that it needs to. So now we put the lens on top. Now what we need to go ahead and do is we need to add those screws on there that we took off. The screws will help out a lot, making sure that everything is tight together. Because if you can see right here, there's a gap right there. So we need to push it in. Same thing over here on this side, there's a gap down there. And then there's a few gaps down here at the bottom that we need to push in. By putting those screws in and heating it up, make sure that the area is hot, that it's not completely dry. Because then these screws are going to have a hard time pulling it forward. So if you heat it up, it'll make it a little bit softer. That way you can push it in. Has a lot of room to go up. And once we add those screws, it'll make it a lot closer to the housing and shut it properly. Alright guys, so here's how the lenses look. And the headlights, it came out flawless. It looks super dope. The fitment was perfect on them. I didn't have any issues at all. Everything lined up. All the screws screwed in. Everything came out really dope. Now, if you look at this, if you put it just on top, it's a huge difference. Just look at that. Looks way better. If you guys have a 370Z, you know how bad these lenses get. So if you do plan on doing this, I would highly suggest going ahead and ceramic coating them or adding a UV protectant spray on top. That way it can pretty much last a really long time, because over time lenses always get ugly. Now they're not always going to be perfect. You can see other cars as well. They start to yellow over time. So you just need to add something on it to really protect it. But overall, came out really sick. I'm really happy that he went with new lenses instead of trying to fix these, because honestly these weren't going to really look any better. Sand them down and then that's going to introduce a lot of scratches and everything. So these new lenses really look dope. I will let him know that he does need to go ahead and get this cover. If he doesn't get that cover, he's just going to get a bunch of dust in there and everything, and it's just going to mess it up again. So make sure that if you don't have the covers in the back, you do purchase those. That way everything is sealed up and nothing is introduced into the headlight, causing any permanent damage in there. But yeah. Alright, cool. If you guys are interested in watching more videos on this and you guys want me to do some custom demon eyes, I'm thinking about doing it, trying it out on my headlights, because this was a pretty easy process opening them up. It's a long process, takes some time, a lot of patience, because you got to be very careful when opening everything up. That way nothing breaks. But overall, it does look pretty sick once you have it done correctly. Alright guys, so I'm going to go ahead and end that video right there. It came out really dope. I'm really happy with how it looked. You will have to use some high temp paint. That's going to last a really long time. because it does get really hot in there with the bulbs and everything, so it will melt the paint. So you got to use something that's going to be resistant to it. So if you guys are interested in watching me do some demon eyes or some RGBs, halos to 370Z, make sure to comment down below. I'm thinking about doing it in the future. Might not be very soon, might be within the next few months. Make sure to follow me on Instagram. I'll leave it somewhere right here. That way you guys can go ahead and follow me. That way you guys can stay updated on things that I'm doing to the cars, the 370Z and the Q50. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.